Hello, my name is Kaylee Malloy, and this is my presentation called Understanding Students with ADHD. So the first question that comes up is basically how many students with ADHD are currently served in the U.S. So this is coming from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. As of 2016, there's 6.1 million kids that are diagnosed, and this is between the ages of 2 and 17. And of those, it kind of breaks it down and shows that 62% of them are taking medication that's needed, and 47% are getting behavior treatment that is needed. And an interesting thing that I learned is just I broke it down with the numbers based on the age to see if that kind of plays a factor, and it does show that there's 388,000 cases of ADHD in ages 2 to 5, and 2.4 million in the ages of 6 to 11, and 3.3 million in the ages of 12 to 17. So I'd really like to expand kind of my research to see if maybe the 12 to 17-year-old age group, if it seems to be easier to be diagnosed later on when you're older, or if there just seems to be more cases of that as time goes on. The next question is going to be, how has the number of students identified increased in many years? So basically, since 2011, it says that there has been an increase of 43% in these children. And again, reading about this, I found that there is a huge increase in girls compared to boys. In 2003, there was a 4.3% of girls, and it jumped all the way in 2011 to 7.3%. So again, traditionally ADHD is more prone for boys, but again, studies show since 2003 that this has severely increased in girls as well. And some of the reported cases, some of the reported reasons for the increase, there is no exact answer as to why this might have jumped and increased, but there's a lot of factors that play a big role in it. And some of those may be that doctors are overdiagnosing students, again, with prescription drugs and medication now. This could also be the pressure from parents and teachers that basically they want to give a magic pill to their children to perform better in school. And it also is studied and showed that ADHD children do a lot better when they are playing outside or with hands-on activities. And as of today, there's about like 6% of kids that play outside regularly. And of those, 8 to 18-year-olds spend about 7 hours on media, and that is with technology in schools. There's iPads, TV, computers, anything like that has a big thing. So that is said to also be the increase of just sitting on a screen all day long as to why ADHD might have grown a little bit. And also just a main unhealthy lifestyle that some children have nowadays. So this could be unhealthy eating, and again, the amount of time you're on media and any technology, and it can also be the lack of sleep and everything like that could also play a big role in it. So someone with ADHD, these are some specific behaviors and characteristics that someone might display. Some of these could be trouble concentrating. They might be wandering around in their brain and thinking of different things than what's going on. They don't listen very well. They do better on some tasks than they do on others. They have trouble planning or being organized. They have trouble learning new things quickly compared to other students. They have trouble sitting still. They're very hyperactive. They act before they think. They have trouble waiting their turn. And basically, like, all of these things it's trouble to hard to diagnose, especially in younger students, because again, you take a first grade class, and especially a first grade boy, and being a nanny, I see this in the first grade boy that I nanny, and he can't sit still, and he doesn't want to concentrate for too long, but it's hard to say what that could be. You know, is that an age factor, or could it be something more? So due to the behaviors and characteristics that I just talked about, basically, this makes it very difficult for a student in a classroom to learn and participate in many ways. Basically, the fact that they can't focus on one thing for a long period of time makes it very hard to do tasks that are long, or sit through tests and learning like that. They have trouble with that. They can't focus very well. They have trouble switching subjects during school, switching from, math to reading and writing is very hard for them, because they have trouble learning new things back to back like that. Behavior is a big factor in this, because of the fact that if they can't sit still and they don't do well listening and staying organized, and they have trouble with taking turns and things like this becomes a behavior problem in the classroom, which is very disruptive for the other students. And then the next question is, do all students with ADHD demonstrate the same characteristics or degree of behavior? And they do not. So again, from my research I've collected, this is a very complex diagnosis, because again, it depends on the age and the lifestyle and what is going on around the student. So it takes many tests to declare that a child has ADHD. And this problem has many ranges and characteristics. They don't have to necessarily display all of the characteristics that I listed before, or have all of the behavior problems. So this is something, ADHD can be very mild cases to very severe cases. So no, every student would be completely different than the other, even if they each had ADHD. And according to the IDEA in 2004, what category students with ADHD identify with? And this category would be, they would need to seek evaluation for it first to have it looked at, of course. So the category that this would fall in is the other health impaired category. This is not a qualifying disability, but depending on the condition and how severe it may be, then it could definitely depend on what kind of help or extra assistance is needed in the classroom. Okay, so due to all of these characteristics that we talked about with someone that has ADHD, some of the effective techniques for the classroom that I found that would be really helpful if I was teaching in a classroom would be, first of all, to realize that you have to treat them in one way or another a little bit equally, and set behavior rules in the class for all of the learners. It's important to have that teacher-student relationship and really know the extent of their learning disability and their issues and what they need more help on and what signs to look out for. So if you recognize that a student might be dealing with ADHD, again, it's very important to realize that so that you can give a little extra attention to that person. So again, behavior rules in the class should be for everybody, but also to kind of have a behavior intervention placed, which means you can plan and be aware of their surroundings, and the student can know right from wrong, and you can kind of meet with that student weekly to see the progress or the weaknesses that he or she might display for that week when it becomes an issue with behavior. Doing things that are visual, like a visual aid like tokens or anything like that, can be a great way to reward but also take away from the student. To know that interrupting or not sitting still or something like that isn't okay. Another thing is to consider environment and instructions. So the amount that you take on a task could be a big factor. Again, them not having a large attention span and having trouble concentrating for a long period of time, you might want to make their task a little bit shorter or take breaks in between. Have direct instruction on what is need to be done, so be very clear about that so that they can focus and get it. And make sure you do really well in the classroom at scheduling your subjects and your transitions. So maybe create group work in between, or free time, or a 5-minute stretch, or breaks that are needed, because this will help the student be able to concentrate more if they get that little 5 to 10-minute break. Another thing is just to do physical movement and distractions. I know that the students that I work with that I nanny, they have brain breaks, which I think is great. So they get up and they can do, a 5-minute dance, or they do a little working out or whatever. And I think that will help, especially to spare the hyperactive kids and get all of their energy out a little bit too. And also try to have not things in the classroom that may cause distractions. This could be games that are set out on the table, or different materials that they could play with and touch, or they want to look at. Kind of having a clear space will help as well, so that they can focus on one thing at a time. And then also just making sure that you reinforce the rules and meet with that student. Again, I think that's important, because then they can take the necessary steps and know kind of where they're at too. So I think communication is huge. And then here are all my sources for the PowerPoint. And this concludes my PowerPoint. Thank you so much.